Humiliation often comes from insecurity. When someone tries to belittle or embarrass another person, it is rarely about the target. More often, it is a reflection of the person delivering the insult. Their harsh words or actions are not a mirror of your worth but of their own inner struggles. Insecurity makes people behave in ways that are cruel, dismissive, and degrading because they feel threatened by the qualities they lack themselves. A confident individual has no desire to humiliate others, because confidence creates space for respect, kindness, and support. On the other hand, an insecure person sees others as competition, as reminders of their own shortcomings, and therefore attempts to elevate themselves by pushing others down. Imagine a workplace scenario where a leader constantly mocks or criticizes one particular employee in front of others. To the outside observer, it may look like the leader has authority and power, but beneath the surface, it is often insecurity that drives such behavior. Perhaps the leader fears being outshined by that employee's talent, potential, or creativity. Instead of addressing their own fears, they project them outward by humiliating the employee, hoping to shift attention away from their weaknesses. Yet, such actions only reveal the fragility of their character. Humiliation, therefore, is not a measure of someone's failure but an expression of another person's fear. This becomes clearer when you notice how humiliation is used in social settings. Children in school sometimes bully others who excel academically or stand out with unique talents. The bullying is not because the victim is lacking, rather, it is because the bully feels inferior and seeks to reduce that feeling by undermining the one who shines. Insecurity, in its most raw form, does not know how to handle admiration for others, so it transforms that admiration into resentment and cruelty. The roots of insecurity can be deep. A person who humiliates others might have grown up without validation, struggling to feel seen or valued. As they mature, this emptiness turns into a desperate attempt to feel significant, often through domination or control. They may not know how to lift themselves up, so they resort to dragging others down. In public, humiliation becomes their tool of survival, even though it eventually exposes their weakness. Those who are secure, grounded, and content within themselves never need to stoop to such measures. Consider history, where powerful figures who were deeply insecure often relied on shaming, belittling, or publicly humiliating their opponents to maintain control. Their reigns were marked by fear and intimidation rather than genuine respect. Contrast that with leaders who were secure in their vision and values. They didn't rely on humiliation but inspired respect through fairness and dignity. The difference lies in the roots. Insecurity breeds humiliation, while confidence fosters respect. The psychological mechanism behind this behavior is projection. When someone humiliates another, they project their own sense of inadequacy onto that person. They may feel powerless in their own life, but by attempting to humiliate, they temporarily regain a sense of control. Yet this control is an illusion. The more they humiliate, the more transparent their insecurity becomes to those who are observant. People start to recognize that the problem is not with the one being humiliated, but with the one doing the humiliating. This dynamic is visible in relationships as well. Insecure partners often resort to constant criticism, public shaming, or sarcastic remarks directed at the people they claim to love. Their intent is to keep the other person small, dependent, and unsure of themselves. But the root of such behavior lies in their fear of not being good enough, their fear of losing control, and their inability to believe they are worthy of love without domination. Humiliation, in this case, becomes a defense mechanism for the fragile ego. The irony is that while humiliation is intended to reduce someone's dignity, it often has the opposite effect in the long run. The person being humiliated may feel pain, embarrassment, or shame in the moment, but with time, people come to see through the act. They recognize who is insecure and who is truly strong. The one who endures humiliation with grace often rises higher, because their dignity remains intact while the other's insecurity stands exposed. Humiliation can also serve as a test of character. For the person on the receiving end, the question becomes, will you internalize the humiliation and let it define you, or will you recognize it as a reflection of the other person's insecurity? Those who understand its roots do not allow humiliation to wound their self-worth. They see it for what it is, a desperate cry from someone who feels small inside. This understanding transforms humiliation from a weapon into a revelation. Even in casual interactions, you can see how this works. When someone mocks another for their appearance, their job, or their background, it may seem like they are pointing out flaws. But in truth, they are revealing their own insecurities. A person secure in their identity does not find satisfaction in shaming others. A person comfortable with their own life does not need to attack another's. Each attempt to humiliate becomes a confession: I feel inadequate, and I want you to feel small so I can feel bigger. Humiliation, then, becomes less about the victim and more about the aggressor's silent battle with themselves. It is an external expression of an internal war, one that cannot be won by bringing others down. The more they try, the deeper their insecurity grows, because humiliation never creates real respect or self-worth, it only reinforces the emptiness inside. True strength lies in self-control. Many people confuse strength with dominance, power, or aggression. They believe that the louder they shout, the more control they display, or the more fear they create, the stronger they appear. But real strength is not about how forceful you are with others, it is about how much command you have over yourself. It is the ability to remain calm in the face of chaos, to choose composure when provoked, and to stand firm without allowing emotions to dictate every action. Self-control transforms ordinary people into leaders, victims into victors, and difficult moments into defining ones. When someone insults you, mocks you, or challenges you unfairly, the natural instinct is to retaliate. The ego burns for revenge, the heart craves validation, and anger demands expression. But if you yield to that impulse every time, you are not in control, your emotions are. True strength is when you can feel that anger rise within you, recognize it, and still choose to respond with dignity instead of fury. This does not mean weakness or submission. On the contrary, it means you have mastered the hardest battlefield of all, the one inside yourself. History provides countless examples of people who embodied this principle. Leaders who could have crushed their enemies with violence often chose restraint, earning respect not through fear but through wisdom. Think of individuals who endured injustice but responded with patience and clarity instead of blind rage. Their self-control became their armor. It shielded them from losing credibility, from making rash decisions, and from lowering themselves to the level of those who tried to humiliate them. They proved that power without control is chaos, but control over power is greatness. Self-control is also a sign of discipline. It means you are not easily swayed by circumstances or other people's actions. For example, in a workplace setting, an employee who can remain composed under criticism often earns more trust and admiration than one who lashes out defensively. The ability to stay calm shows maturity and reliability, qualities that others naturally respect. Strength, therefore, is not displayed in how quickly you react but in how wisely you respond. Self-control is the difference between escalating a conflict and resolving it, between creating enemies and earning allies. Psychologically, self-control reflects emotional intelligence. It means you are aware of your emotions but not enslaved by them. You recognize the triggers that push you toward anger, fear, or pride, but you do not let those triggers dictate your choices. A person who has mastered self-control does not need to prove their strength through intimidation. Their silence, their patience, and their measured words become enough to convey authority. This level of mastery is rare, which is why it is so powerful when it is seen. In daily life, self-control is tested constantly. When someone cuts you off in traffic, when a colleague undermines your work, or when someone tries to publicly embarrass you, the urge to respond immediately is strong. But those who rise above do not give away their power so easily. They understand that reacting in anger often gives the other person satisfaction, showing that they succeeded in disturbing your peace. By holding back, by refusing to let the provocation dictate your behavior, you deny them that victory. That act alone is a form of silent revenge, because it shows you are untouchable. Consider the image of a tree in a storm. The storm rages, the wind howls, the rain beats down, yet the strongest tree is not the one that thrashes wildly but the one that bends without breaking, that stands firm without being uprooted. Self-control is that rootedness in a storm. It allows you to withstand the worst without losing yourself. It prevents you from being tossed about by every provocation and teaches you the strength of stability. True strength through self-control also influences others deeply. When people witness someone maintaining dignity under pressure, it inspires them. It creates a sense of admiration that brute force could never achieve. Anyone can lose their temper, but not everyone can hold it. Anyone can shout, but not everyone can remain silent when it matters most. It takes far more strength to master your emotions than to let them master you. Self-control is not about suppression but about direction. It does not mean you ignore your emotions or pretend they do not exist. It means you channel them in a way that serves you instead of harms you. Anger can become fuel for determination, pain can become fuel for growth, and humiliation can become fuel for respect, but only if you control them instead of letting them control you. Those who understand this principle know that the greatest battles are not fought outwardly but inwardly, in the space between provocation and response. Ultimately, self-control is a sign of true freedom. When you can control yourself, no one else can control you. No insult, no humiliation, no act of disrespect has the power to dictate your behavior. You become unshakable because your strength is not dependent on external validation but rooted in your own discipline. This inner mastery radiates outward, commanding respect in a way that force never could. Respect is earned, not demanded. Many people believe that holding a position of authority, having wealth, or displaying power automatically entitles them to respect. They confuse fear with respect, compliance with admiration, and obedience with honor. But genuine respect cannot be forced, and it cannot be claimed by titles alone. It is built through actions, through character, and through consistency over time. Respect flows naturally when others witness qualities that inspire trust, admiration, and dignity. Attempting to demand it often exposes weakness rather than strength. When someone insists on being respected simply because of their status, their age, or their achievements, they may receive temporary compliance, but that compliance lacks sincerity. People may smile in their presence while quietly resenting them in private. True respect exists even when authority is absent. It is felt when people speak positively about someone who is not in the room, when loyalty continues even without supervision, and when admiration is given freely without the pressure of fear. That is the essence of earned respect, and it is far more enduring than any form of forced obedience. Earning respect requires integrity. It comes from keeping your word, treating people fairly, and acting with honesty even when no one is watching. A person who consistently demonstrates integrity becomes a source of reliability, and people naturally look up to them. In contrast, someone who demands respect but fails to act with fairness or honesty only undermines themselves. The gap between their demands and their behavior becomes too obvious to ignore, and the respect they crave slips further away. Respect is also earned through humility. While arrogance drives people away, humility draws them closer. An arrogant leader may achieve fear, but they will never achieve love or genuine loyalty. A humble leader, on the other hand, creates an environment where people feel valued, seen, and appreciated. Humility does not mean weakness, it means strength under control. It means knowing your worth without needing to diminish the worth of others. People are far more willing to respect someone who lifts them up than someone who constantly tries to stand above them. Another way respect is earned is through empathy. When people feel understood, they feel valued, and this naturally turns into respect for the one who showed understanding. Empathy builds bridges where authority builds walls. It allows a person to connect beyond titles or social roles, creating bonds that are rooted in humanity. A teacher who listens to students, a boss who acknowledges the struggles of employees, a leader who cares for the community, these are the people who inspire deep respect because they see others not as tools but as fellow human beings. Respect is not about perfection, it is about consistency. People do not respect someone because they never make mistakes. They respect those who take responsibility for their mistakes and learn from them. Accountability is one of the strongest pillars of respect. Admitting when you are wrong shows courage, and courage always attracts admiration. On the other hand, demanding respect while refusing accountability only creates resentment. People quickly see through the facade of authority when it is not backed by responsibility. In personal relationships, respect cannot be demanded either. Love without respect is fragile, but respect without love can still sustain loyalty. When one partner insists on being respected without offering respect in return, the relationship weakens. Mutual respect is the foundation, and it grows through actions like listening, valuing opinions, and treating the other with dignity. A partner who consistently shows these qualities earns respect naturally, while one who demands it while disregarding the other's feelings loses it over time. Respect is also closely tied to resilience. People respect those who endure challenges without losing dignity. The person who faces humiliation, injustice, or betrayal but chooses not to crumble under the weight of bitterness often commands admiration. Their strength, patience, and ability to stand firm in adversity become qualities others look up to. Respect is rarely given to those who act out of rage or impulse but almost always to those who remain steady under pressure. Cultural and social contexts may create rules around respect, such as bowing, greeting elders in certain ways, or using formal titles. While these rituals matter, they only symbolize respect on the surface. True respect goes beyond ritual, it is the feeling that accompanies the gesture. A bow without genuine regard is empty, while a simple word with sincerity can mean more than the most elaborate custom. This shows again that respect cannot be enforced by tradition or rulebook, it must be felt and earned. Leadership is perhaps the clearest example of how respect works. A leader who rules by fear may gain obedience, but the moment they lose power, the obedience vanishes. A leader who earns respect through vision, fairness, and compassion continues to inspire loyalty even long after their position ends. History remembers them not because they demanded respect but because they lived in a way that deserved it. Their words, actions, and decisions created trust, and trust became the foundation of enduring admiration. Respect is deeply connected to character. Wealth may buy influence, status may grant authority, and force may ensure compliance, but none of these can guarantee respect. Only character does that. Character shows itself in how a person treats those who cannot benefit them, how they behave when no one is watching, and how they respond when faced with choices that test their values. A person of strong character does not need to demand respect, because respect becomes a natural response from others who recognize their authenticity. In everyday life, the difference between demanded respect and earned respect is visible. A boss who orders respect may get nods during meetings but complaints behind their back. A teacher who insists on respect may silence a class temporarily but never inspire true learning. In contrast, a boss who listens, supports, and treats employees with dignity will earn their loyalty. A teacher who believes in students and respects them as individuals will earn their admiration. The respect that grows in these cases lasts far longer and carries far deeper meaning than anything forced. Dignity speaks louder than anger. In a world where people often react to insult or injustice with fury, it is the quiet strength of dignity that leaves the deepest impact. Anger may create noise, but dignity creates presence. Anger may demand attention in the moment, but dignity earns respect for a lifetime. When faced with humiliation or provocation, many assume that shouting back, fighting back, or showing aggression is the only way to reclaim power. Yet true power does not lie in matching the intensity of the offender. It lies in holding one's ground with calm, composure, and grace. That calmness unsettles aggressors more than anger ever could because it cannot be controlled, provoked, or manipulated. Anger is often fleeting, a fire that burns quickly and consumes energy, leaving regret in its wake. It can cause words to spill that should never have been spoken, decisions to be made that cannot be undone, and wounds to be opened that take years to heal. On the other hand, dignity remains steady, like a flame that does not waver even in a storm. It communicates strength without aggression, defiance without disrespect, and confidence without arrogance. People may forget what was shouted in anger, but they rarely forget the image of someone who maintained dignity in the face of adversity. In professional settings, this difference becomes clear. An employee who explodes when criticized may feel justified in their anger, but they often lose credibility. The one who maintains dignity, who responds with clarity instead of hostility, gains a different kind of authority. Their calm response demonstrates control, maturity, and resilience, qualities that colleagues and leaders cannot ignore. Over time, their dignity earns them influence, while anger only isolates. It is not silence that speaks in such moments but the controlled expression of words that are chosen carefully rather than hurled recklessly. Anger is natural, and no one can completely avoid it. But dignity lies in how one channels that anger. Instead of letting it erupt uncontrollably, dignity allows it to be reshaped into determination, patience, or quiet resistance. Anger may fuel the fire, but dignity shapes the flame. For example, many great reformers and leaders throughout history were deeply angered by injustice, yet they chose dignity over rage. They stood firm without being dragged into the cycle of hatred. Their dignified resistance spoke volumes to the world, earning them respect across generations. In personal relationships, dignity has the power to break cycles of conflict. When one partner shouts, insults, or belittles, the instinctive response might be to retaliate in equal measure. But such reactions only intensify the conflict, leaving both sides wounded. The partner who responds with dignity, however, disrupts the pattern. They refuse to be drawn into chaos, and in doing so, they highlight the immaturity of the aggressor. Dignity, in this way, acts as both shield and mirror. It protects one's self-respect while reflecting back the behavior of the other person. Dignity also protects inner peace. Anger often leaves the mind restless, replaying scenarios, justifying reactions, and fueling resentment. But dignity creates a sense of stability. It allows a person to walk away from provocation without feeling defeated, because walking away with dignity is not the same as surrendering. It is a choice to rise above, to refuse to let the offender dictate one's emotional state. This inner calm not only strengthens the individual but also influences how others perceive them. People admire those who can stand tall under pressure without losing composure. There is a subtle power in silence when it is rooted in dignity. Silence does not mean weakness. It can mean that a person's confidence is so strong they do not need to prove themselves through argument. An angry outburst may win the battle of volume, but dignified silence often wins the war of respect. This is why in heated debates, the person who remains calm while others lose control tends to leave the strongest impression. Their restraint communicates certainty and self-assurance, while the anger of others exposes insecurity. Psychologically, dignity creates authority. Anger can be dismissed as impulsive or irrational, but dignity is associated with wisdom and strength. A person who responds with dignity is perceived as someone who has mastered themselves. This mastery commands respect even from adversaries. Many people who sought to humiliate others have ended up looking smaller when their targets responded with dignity instead of rage. The aggressor's actions appear petty when contrasted with the calm resilience of the one they tried to demean. Even in moments of deep injustice, dignity carries weight. History remembers individuals who chose dignity as symbols of courage. They were insulted, attacked, and degraded, yet their refusal to descend into anger gave their actions moral authority. Their dignity did not erase the pain of the injustice, but it transformed how the world viewed them and how the world viewed those who opposed them. Dignity turns victims into symbols of resilience, while anger often reduces them to participants in the same cycle of hostility. Dignity also sets an example for others. When people see someone react with composure under pressure, it inspires them to believe they too can rise above provocation. It shows that strength is not about overpowering but about outlasting, not about shouting but about standing firm. This influence spreads beyond the immediate moment, teaching others the value of restraint and the long-term power of dignity. Children, students, employees, and entire communities learn more from the example of dignity than from the display of anger. In everyday life, moments of provocation are inevitable. A stranger's insult, a colleague's sarcasm, or an unfair judgment may spark anger instantly. Yet it is in these moments that dignity becomes the greatest weapon. Responding with calmness, walking with composure, and holding on to self-respect without yielding to rage not only protects one's inner peace but also leaves an impression that cannot be erased. Anger burns quickly and fades, but dignity lingers in the memory of those who witnessed it. Revenge through wisdom lasts longer. Many people see revenge as immediate retaliation, a quick strike to hurt the one who hurt them. They believe satisfaction comes from inflicting pain equal to what they endured. Yet such revenge is often fleeting, leaving behind bitterness rather than fulfillment. Wisdom transforms the idea of revenge into something deeper, something that carries weight far beyond the moment. When revenge is sought through wisdom, it is no longer about causing harm but about demonstrating strength, growth, and success in a way that cannot be denied or erased. The satisfaction of hurting someone back fades quickly. Anger may feel resolved for a moment, but it soon gives way to emptiness. On the other hand, revenge through wisdom is about living in such a way that the humiliation or injustice you suffered becomes the very reason for your growth. Instead of striking back in anger, you choose to rise higher, succeed, and carry yourself with such dignity that your very existence becomes the ultimate response. The offender is left to watch as the person they tried to tear down rises above them, not through violence or hatred but through wisdom and patience. Wisdom-based revenge often comes in the form of transformation. When a person chooses to learn, improve, and grow instead of being consumed by anger, their life begins to shine in ways their aggressors never expected. For example, someone who was belittled for their lack of success might channel that pain into building a career that earns them respect and admiration. The people who once mocked them eventually become silent witnesses to their progress. This kind of revenge does not just punish the offender, it redefines the victim into someone stronger and more admirable than before. Another aspect of revenge through wisdom is restraint. By refusing to lower yourself to the same behavior as those who harmed you, you show that you are above them. Choosing not to engage in petty retaliation requires a level of discipline and control that most people lack. This restraint unsettles those who expect anger in return because it denies them the satisfaction of seeing you broken or consumed by rage. It shows that they could not control you, and that realization is more powerful than any verbal or physical retaliation could ever be. Wisdom also teaches that revenge is best served in silence. You do not need to announce your success or remind those who wronged you of what they did. The quiet rise, the calm progression of your life, and the dignity with which you carry yourself become enough. Over time, the contrast between your growth and their actions becomes evident to everyone, including themselves. The shame of knowing they tried to humiliate someone who is now thriving becomes their burden to carry. Silence in success is one of the sharpest forms of wisdom-driven revenge. Injustice often creates two paths, one of anger and destruction, the other of wisdom and elevation. Anger-driven revenge may offer a short-lived thrill, but it rarely changes the story. Wisdom-driven revenge, however, rewrites the entire narrative. It transforms you from victim to victor, not just in the eyes of others but within yourself. You begin to see that the best response to cruelty is not to match it but to surpass it. This surpassing becomes the kind of revenge that lasts, because it elevates you while diminishing the significance of those who sought to harm you. In relationships, revenge through wisdom is especially powerful. When someone disrespects or betrays you, the urge to retaliate in kind can be overwhelming. Yet wisdom teaches that the greatest revenge is to move on with grace, to find happiness, and to thrive without them. Instead of wasting energy on bitterness, you channel it into creating a life so fulfilling that their betrayal becomes irrelevant. Seeing you happy, successful, and unshaken becomes a reminder of their own loss and mistake. This form of revenge does not harm your spirit, it nourishes it. Wisdom also reveals that time is a key ally in revenge. Immediate reactions often weaken your position because they show how deeply you were affected. But when you wait, when you grow, and when you let time reveal the truth, the impact is far stronger. Over time, those who mocked or humiliated you fade into the background, while your achievements stand in the spotlight. Revenge rooted in wisdom is patient, knowing that the greatest vindication comes not today but in the unfolding of tomorrow. Revenge through wisdom can even extend to forgiveness. Not forgiveness that excuses the wrong, but forgiveness that releases you from the chains of bitterness. By choosing to let go of hatred, you deny the offender ongoing control over your emotions. Your ability to live freely, without carrying the weight of anger, becomes a form of revenge they cannot match. They may remain bitter or resentful, but you move forward unburdened. This emotional freedom is a triumph that outlasts any momentary act of retaliation. Ultimately, revenge through wisdom lasts longer because it transforms pain into purpose. It shifts the focus from destroying others to building yourself. It teaches that the best answer to humiliation is achievement, the best answer to betrayal is resilience, and the best answer to cruelty is dignity. While anger seeks to wound in the moment, wisdom seeks to win in the long run. And in the long run, the victory of wisdom leaves a mark that cannot be erased. Turning pain into power inspires others. Pain is one of the most universal human experiences, something every person encounters in different forms: loss, betrayal, humiliation, rejection, or failure. Yet what separates those who remain trapped in suffering from those who rise above it is how they respond to that pain. Pain can break a person down, leaving them bitter and defeated, or it can become the very foundation of their strength, teaching resilience, courage, and determination. When someone takes the wounds life has given them and transforms them into a source of energy, purpose, and wisdom, they not only elevate themselves but also inspire those around them who are still struggling. Pain is raw, and in its first stages, it often feels unbearable. The instinct is to avoid it, to suppress it, or to let it define one's life. But pain contains within it the seed of growth. Those who allow themselves to confront it, learn from it, and reshape it, discover a strength they never knew existed. This transformation is what others notice and admire, because it speaks to the human spirit's ability to rise from the ashes of suffering. People are not only moved by success stories, they are inspired by the journey from pain to power because it mirrors their own potential struggles. Consider the example of individuals who faced rejection over and over again but refused to give up. Their pain of being dismissed, overlooked, or underestimated became the fuel that pushed them toward greatness. The rejection stung, but instead of letting it define their worth, they used it to refine their skills, sharpen their focus, and strengthen their resolve. Later, when they finally succeeded, their story became more than just personal triumph, it became a light for others facing similar rejection, proving that setbacks do not have to be the end of the story. Turning pain into power also requires perspective. When you are humiliated, for instance, it can feel like your dignity has been stripped away. But with time and reflection, you begin to see that the humiliation says more about the insecurities of the person who inflicted it than about your own value. This shift in perspective allows the pain to lose its sting, replacing shame with wisdom. That wisdom then becomes part of your strength, and in sharing it, you inspire others who may still be crushed under the weight of humiliation. You show them that pain does not have to define them, it can refine them. Another way pain becomes power is through empathy. Those who have suffered often become the most compassionate. They understand what it feels like to be at the bottom, to be dismissed, or to be hurt, and because of that, they develop a deeper sensitivity toward others. This empathy makes them stronger leaders, better friends, and more inspiring figures, because people naturally respect those who can connect with their struggles. Pain, when transformed into empathy, has the power to build bridges, heal wounds, and inspire communities. Pain also sharpens resilience. Life will always present challenges, and those who have endured hardship often become the most unshakable. Having survived deep wounds, they learn that they can endure almost anything. Each painful experience becomes proof of their endurance, a reminder that they are stronger than they once believed. This resilience inspires others who are still in the midst of suffering, showing them that survival is possible and that strength can emerge from the darkest moments. In many cases, some of the most celebrated leaders, artists, and visionaries are people who turned their deepest pain into their greatest contribution. Their creativity, their movements, or their leadership was fueled by the very struggles that once threatened to destroy them. Audiences connect with their work not only because of its brilliance but also because of the authenticity behind it. People feel the pain that has been reshaped into power, and it gives them hope that they too can do the same with their own challenges. The process of turning pain into power also requires patience. Pain is not transformed overnight. At first, it can feel overwhelming, consuming every thought and action. But with persistence, reflection, and effort, the energy of that pain can be redirected. Like heat that forges metal, pain can forge character. The process is difficult, but the result is a strength that cannot be achieved any other way. And when people witness someone who has endured that process, their respect grows because they know the strength was earned, not given. Furthermore, turning pain into power often means proving doubters wrong. When others expect you to fail because of what you went through, rising beyond their expectations becomes a statement in itself. Success in the face of pain silences critics more effectively than anger or retaliation ever could. Watching someone transform suffering into achievement becomes a lesson for everyone who has ever been underestimated. It shows that no amount of pain can stop someone determined to rise. The inspiration that comes from this transformation spreads outward. It is not just about one person overcoming difficulty, it is about the ripple effect created when others witness it. Seeing someone use their pain as a stepping stone encourages others to look at their own struggles differently. It gives them permission to believe that their pain, too, can become a source of strength instead of weakness. It shows them that the very experiences that hurt them the most can become the foundation of their greatest accomplishments. Ultimately, pain turned into power is one of the most profound human transformations. It elevates individuals from victims into examples, from sufferers into leaders, from brokenness into symbols of resilience. It proves that pain, though heavy and difficult, does not have to be wasted. When channeled with wisdom, patience, and courage, it becomes power, not just personal power, but power that lights the path for others who are still in the dark.